Hey guys, I did a video too long ago about this book. I'm gonna use this as a thumbnail. Let me put it there. Oh, there it is. I was looking for that in the other video. That's getting hung on that hook on my refrigerator. Anyway. Excuse me. Because I'm gonna need that for when I'm recovering. So I have my food written. My menu's written out. So nobody has to guess what I want to eat. It'll be written out. Anyway, what I wanted to do is tell you about what TV looked like when I was a kid. I cannot stop sneezing today. Must be a very, very high pollen count today. Anyway, when I was a kid, sorry, all the way up through becoming a teenager, the TV was 6 channels at the top and like 4 channels at the bottom. What do I mean by that? We didn't have a remote control. We had dials that you turned. The top one had 4, 5, 7, 10, 12, and 2. 6 channels. 2 was PBS. The other channels were the networks, 4, 5, and 7. 10 and 12 were also networks, but they were the Rhode Island affiliates. So, sometimes if there was something special on one of the channels, like for example 4 and 10 were both NBC. If there was something on channel 4, the network show would be on channel 10 and you could just switch it to channel 10. As long as it wasn't one of my Hemingway cousins. A nationally televised special. You could switch it to the other one, which was the Rhode Island one, 10 and 12. And those were, 10 was NBC and 12 was ABC. Because in the beginning, Channel 4, this is the Boston channels. Channel 4 was NBC, WBZ. Channel 5, WCVB, was ABC, and Channel 7, WHDH, was CBS. However, at some point, Channel 4 was no longer, WBZ was no longer an NBC affiliate. So, WHDH dropped CBS, and CBS went over to WBZ, Channel 4, and NBC went over to WHDH, Channel 7. That was a mess. For a good 2 years, at any given time, you could turn on the wrong channel for your show and realize that you were on the wrong network. I'm not kidding. Ask anybody who lived through the switching of the network debacle here in Massachusetts. It was a mess. I don't know the whole story. I just know that somehow it started with WBZ losing NBC. And they didn't have an affiliate. I guess NBC wanted HDH, so their contract with, I don't know, but yes, Linda. I'm sure it's for my birthday, but anyway, where was I going? And the other channels that we got, you had to switch the top dial to the letter U. I know a lot of people, including my little Millie, would have no idea what that means. What that means is for those of us that old, UHF. Regular channels used to be VHF. They're all digital now, so there is no UHF or VHF anymore. But regular channels, up to channel 12 on my dial, were VHF, which are regular network channels. And UHF was when you turn the top dial to the letter U, and then you could use the bottom dial, and we had 56, 27, 25, and 38. All local syndicated channels. Now, channel 38 ended up becoming a superstation. It had all the Boston sports. It had, I mean, it was one of the hubs of the area in terms of sports and stuff like that. So it became a superstation, like TBS. TBS started out the same way in Atlanta that WSBE started out in Boston. It was a hub for Atlanta sports. It was the wrestling and everything, and eventually became a superstation, which were the first UHF channels that became nationwide cable channels. Another one was WGN out of Chicago. Those were the super stations. The local stations that became national, basically, is what the super stations were. And TBS was Turner Broadcasting, and that became a franchise. Because then it had TNT, and it had Turner Classic Movies, and he just became an absolute billionaire through cable television. What just started out as a local channel that he owned became a $1 billion business. So, but the other channels that were there, channel 56, channel 27, and channel 25, channel 25 became Fox. Before Fox became a cable network, or a network, as it were, Fox took over 25, and it was Fox 25 for a long time, because Fox had a bunch of local channels that it took over, and 27 became the Spanish channel. '56, I think, just dissolved. And I was thinking about this the other day because I was looking on YouTube. They have a lot of the old movies, the old made-for-TV movies, and he gets them from different people, and one of them was recorded off of channel 56 out of Boston, up like say, what? You know, because it's a local channel for me. I haven't seen Channel 56 out of Boston in a zillion years, you know? But those channels were where you watched wrestling in the evenings, 27 and 56. Until 27 became the Spanish channel. They were bought out by, I guess, a Spanish company because they became a fully Spanish-speaking channel before we had cable TV. Don't know. But they had all the syndicated shows. You could watch Three's Company on there. You could watch, you know, all the sitcoms from the past. And then as time grew, syndication became something they did first run of with some shows. So, yeah. And the gentleman that I met watches these guys. So that's kind of cool. The gentleman that gave me the water watches these guys. So, anyway, we had no cable where I live. You have to understand. I live in a small rural community that doesn't have the infrastructure for so much as a grocery store. Yet the town right next door has a grocery store. And when I say infrastructure, I mean enough water, sewer, power, all the things that you need, space, physical space, to be able to house those things. We just don't have it. They're trying to build out our infrastructure, but where the heck would you put a Walmart or a, not that we need one, there's one 5 minutes away. Actually, it's 6 minutes, according to my tracker when they come here to deliver. It's literally 6 minutes away. Why would we need one? But if they wanted to put some kind of grocery store here, where would you put it? You know? So that's a consideration too. And the traffic that we do not want in our little town. So anyway. It's funny how kids today, when you say, we used to turn the dial to the letter U, they would look at you funny. Or when we first got cable, it was a cable system called Preview. This is going back. And you would turn the top dial to the number 3. And there are these little boxes. Let me see if I can find a picture of one. Okay, let me... Linda! Oh, that. Okay, now I can do what I was going to do. Pull cable and images. Here it is, right here. There it is. That's what I'm talking about. And it can either say game, or it can say cable, or computer and TV. There's the Atari one. There's the Atari one. But what I remember is this one here. Right here. I still have one of these. This piece up here. Because we never used it. These two went into the TV, and then this end came out into the TV. So but you can plug those two into there and plug that into your TV if you had that kind of end on your TV. So we always had those, we just never used them. But yeah, that's what it is. And we had those for our Atari, we had those for preview. And that one said cable on the other end instead of saying game. Worked the same way. But the TV on channel 3, you flip that little switch up to cable or game, and it came on. That was it. And they were programmed to channel 3 because channel 3 wasn't the channel. Now with Atari, you could program it to channel 2 or channel 3. You could choose that yourself. My mother knew how to do that. I think with the cable one, it was always channel 3. With Atari, you could program it. Same thing with the original Nintendo. You plugged it in the same way, and you could decide whether it was channel 2 or channel 3. So, yourself. I remember the days of playing video games in someone's house and I have to ask them, is it channel 2 or channel 3? You know? Because if you put it on the wrong channel, you'll get snow. For those of you who don't know what that is, snow is, it's white stuff and it goes usually at the end of the broadcast day. Yes, there was an end of the broadcast day. At midnight or 1 o'clock, depending on the channel, you would get a flag waving in the breeze and playing the national anthem. And they would either do that all night, or they would do that, and then it would go to snow. Or go to the ribbons of the different colors. I got 3 of these. Okay, I gotta move those up to the top. Oh, 4 of those. Okay. I have to move those up to the top. Anyway. So yeah. That was TV when I was a kid. So you use the same switch for bare bones basic cable call preview. That you did for your video game. And when you had both, like we had both. We had the Atari and the preview. The Atari would be on channel 2, preview would be on channel 3. So it was cool. We really didn't miss anything because we didn't know there was anything else out there. You know what I mean? We had 6 VHF channels and 4 UHF channels. And occasionally something else would pop up. One thing my mother used to do was she would get channels that came from cable. She wouldn't get them to come in real clear, but she could get the audio perfect. My father and I would sit and watch wrestling and just listen to it, and he would tell me what, who was who and what was going on. Stop, Linda. Just stop. It's fake. Okay, whoops. Reader. Okay. Wait. So yeah. Like I said, there we go. Okay. Like I said, that's how it was. So we didn't miss anything. Real cable started coming around, and we didn't get it until we moved to the next town over when I was 13. Our town didn't get it for another 5 years. This town. And it was like 7 years for the backwoods part of this town. I kid you not. So, because it was about 92 when this part of this town got it, and it was about 94, 95 when the backwoods part of town got it. So, yeah. Not that long ago when you think about it. About 30 years. Let's see. Yeah, 32 years since the backwoods part of town got it. And 34 years since the main part of town got It was cool. It was cool. And I do remember when we first got cable and pay-per-view was becoming a thing, we could only get the WWE pay-per-views. They did not show the WCW/NWA ones. That particular cable company. That took another few years. So, things moved slowly. But they moved. Back in the day, you could hear channels, like I said. They were scrambled, which means that they had all the lines through them, and then, but you could hear them perfectly well. We sat there and we could hear Rocky playing on HBO. We didn't have cable in our area at all. We should not have been able to even hear it, but we could hear it. Sometimes, if you went through the channels, you could hear the No-No channel in the background. Just hear it. It was scrambled, but you could hear the No-No channel. When I say the No-No channel, I mean stuff you can't talk about on YouTube. No-No channel. So, you shouldn't be able to hear any of that. We certainly couldn't see it. Well, occasionally, it would unscramble for a second. And I remember when cable was first a thing, when we first had cable, they would routinely, they would do a weekend where they would give you free HBO or free Cinemax or free whatever it was, Showtime. Because HBO and Cinemax were owned by the same company, and Showtime and the Movie Channel were owned by the same company. So you would get one or the other pair for free for a weekend, usually over a holiday weekend. Like a Memorial Day weekend, a Labor Day weekend, something like that. And they would forget to shut it back off at the end of the weekend a lot of times, and you'd end up with HBO for a year for nothing. Because they didn't shut it off. And everybody in town would be like, "You still have it? Do you still have it?" Yeah, because they didn't freaking shut it off. Nobody was doing anything wrong. It happened to some subset of people. Every time they turned it on for a free weekend, they would leave it on, inevitably for at least a year. Some group of people would end up with it. And it would be all over town. Tongues wagging. You still got HBO? You still got Cinemax? Because we didn't have much else to talk about. No, because it was a big deal. That stuff is expensive. And when they give it to you for a free weekend and then don't bother to shut it back off or scramble it again, as the case may be, then everybody's going to be talking about it. And do not tell the and the adults made it clear, don't tell the cable company. They did this. We didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean? We didn't steal it. We didn't do anything wrong with it. It just so happened that they left it on. And I'm sure anybody anywhere in the country experienced that in the early days of cable. Them leaving it unscrambled after a free weekend. Because they want you to buy it, so they gave you a free weekend. I don't think they do that anymore. At the end of doing that, my cable company stopped doing it altogether. Probably because they were leaving it on. Because they were too lazy to press the scramble button. Anyway, those were our experiences, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit of a long one. I'm going to enjoy watching it. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to spend the rest of my birthday doing genealogy, and I'm sitting Indian style and losing the feeling in my foot. So, yeah. Thank you so much. please hit the hype button. Please hit the subscribe. Thank you so much. And big thumbs up for Millie.